it's also, you know, I can count on one hand with that, so.
You're right. Good job.
Speaking of Swiss round 4, we have another matchup for you, and I'm actually really excited about this one as well because we've got Thomas Cooleen versus William Brown. Now, William Brown, I feel like, represents sort of like the newer age of VGC player. He's been so consistently dominant the last couple of years, really come into his own, but you know T-Man, Tommy Cooleen, that's a throwback.
He's been playing longer than I have, and I started, what, 13 years ago now, so it's cool to see him doing so well at these events in the modern era as well. He's someone that can always show up to an event and make a deep run, even if he's been taking a little bit of a break. And so far, so good for Tommy at 3-0 going into round number 4, and hoping to continue on even further.
These teams are also really exciting. We get a chance to get another look at this Whimsicott with the Charizard and the Garchomp that Tommy's going to be running. But I feel like this is kind of another iteration of these Pokemon. Well, we know that these 6 in particular are really good.
Yep.
There's actually going to be some small things, I think, that make this team a little bit more unique. I'm talking mostly about those super effective berries, the Roselli berry for the Garchomp and the Kebia berry for the Whimsicott.
Which is the poison resist berry for those uninformed. It means that Whimsicott should be able to survive a Dire Claw. I imagine if you're running the Kebia berry, it's because you've trained it for that, or potentially something like a Glamora Sludge Bomb could be on Tommy's mind there as well. When you don't have the Focus Sash available on the Whimsicott, it's kind of one of your second best options there. Yeah, Garchomp moveset, also unique. That is not a set that I've personally seen yet. It is Stomping Tantrum and Stone Edge instead of Earthquake and Rock Slide. We are going full on in the you will not wide guard my Garchomp mode because there's no spread moves on this Garchomp at all.
That's true.
To be guarded.
We have had like, oh my gosh, what is the thing that I'm thinking of? Well, because Stone Edge is less accurate but more powerful than not
both Rock
Throw.
Slide and Rock Tomb.
Rock Tomb, that was the one. I was like, well, it's one of the rocks. You know, rock type move there. But this is a more unique team. Of course, going to be featuring one of the newer Mega Evolutions in that Mega Dragonite that we've already seen, but Mega Scovillain is also on this team.
This is a pretty cool team. We've got the Espathra as well, the Calm Mind Baton Pass set. Something that's been picking up a little bit of traction there. With the speed boost in Calm Mind, you're able to use Baton Pass to transfer all of those stat boosts to one of your Pokemon. Looking at William's team, all of our Chaladon, Politoed, and Dragonite would be really great targets for that Baton Pass. Of course, that Politoed, we're not used to seeing the offensive set on Politoed, but it is carrying the Mystic Water instead of something like a Citrus Berry or a Resist Berry instead. So if you want to pass it to the Politoed, you'd more than get a lot of mileage out of it too.
You could, for sure. I mean, those Ice Beams are going to be super effective into something like that Garchomp. The Roselli Berry is only going to save you from those Fairy type attacks.
True.
But you also do get a nice boost of damage to that Weather Ball that is going to become a Water type attack when in the rain. There's, of course, a way that you can go around that, which is going to be with the Mega Charizard. So that's going to be something that sets the sun and changes that Weather Ball into a Fire type attack. But it is not going to be either of those Megas hitting the field right now, or even Pokemon hitting the field. We've got the Dragonite and the Sneasler versus the Garchomp and the Basculegion.
The Dragonite, we're so used to the physical Dragonite, whether it's Scale Shot or like Choice Band, Extreme Speed. But the Mega Dragonite is much more inclined for those special attacks and will be carrying both Dragon Pulse and Hurricane. Hurricane being a really, really great option when the rain is up. We might get a little bit of a weather war going on between these two trainers throughout the battle, but no weather just yet, and no possibility for it on this turn.
You don't need the weather, though, if you're the Dragonite, if you're going to be just focusing on the Dragon Pulse and the Extreme Speed. Extreme Speed, of course, going to give you a nice way to be able to get some increased damage down, or if you see the Fake Out coming into that Garchomp, I feel like that's just going to end up being a Dragon Pulse to KO it on this turn. Fake Out to stop it, Dragon Pulse to follow up, and that is going to be basically a one-hit knockout into this Garchomp.
Is a one-hit knockout into Garchomp, but Basculegion can respond. Do you rather break the multi-scale on the Dragonite or potentially get a big knockout into Sneasler with Liquidation? And he do just KO the Sneasler, so we're trading Pokemon right away.
I feel like I would like this trade a little bit more, though, for Tommy. I mean, the fact that you get rid of the Sneasler means that you don't actually have something that's going to be dealing big damage to like your Charizard or your Garchomp. But the problem with the Basculegion is that, you still get a chance to use the Rain if that gets set up.
And your King Gambit, right? The Sneasler is a big obstacle to King Gambit. That's one of the best options you have into King Gambit in general in this metagame. And now that the King Gambit is gone, Dragonite only has resisted attacks, and the Archaludon needs the weather setup to be even neutral.
We're going to see that weather come in now. Dragonite going to preserve its multi-scale for later, as the Politoed is going to come in and set up the Rain. going to take this Last Respects, which it actually handles quite well. Remember, it's only going to be an additional 50 base power, but that is one bulky Politoed. We have the Archaludon with the Rain is going to be able to fire out these Electro Shots in one turn. That's going to be a nice special attack boost. And the Kingambit's actually going to take quite a bit of damage from that Electro Shot as well. Kingambit, though, is going to go for the Sword Stance. That's going to be a nice +2 to its attack stat.
I like the option for a Sword Stance there instead of going straight for damage. If you did go for something like a Kowtow Cleave into the Archaludon, trying to get a little bit of damage into it, maybe soften it up a little bit, you do activate its stamina ability and boost its defense by 1 stage. So your next attack will do even less. But now that you've gone for the Sword Stance, you can threaten a +2 Sucker Punch at neutral defense. Won't one-hit KO it, but will still do a lot of damage and could soften it up for something like your Charizard in the back.
I'm wondering, though, how you actually get around this Archaludon. I think that's the biggest question. With the stamina boosts, you're going to continuously take less and less damage from Kingambit and Basculegion, as those are both physical attackers. But you do have this +2 to the Kingambit, so, you know, is something like a Kowtow Cleave actually going to do a lot here? Kingambit goes for the Sucker Punch first, though, and actually, as I say that, I mean, that's not a resisted hit, that's just neutral damage. It's going to bring it down low enough that we could have potentially seen a Last Respects to follow it up. But the Archaludon is safe for now, because it's going to be the Dragonite that takes the Last Respects instead. Another Electro Shot is going to boost up this Archaludon to +2 special attack, and it's going to finish off this Kingambit for good.
Kingambit is knocked out, but that Sucker Punch was huge. Now at Last Respects, with the extra power from one more Pokemon being knocked out, could be enough to have this Basculegion knock out that Archaludon. We are seeing Archaludon attack before the, the Basculegion attack before the Archaludon as well. So that should be a speed advantage for that Basculegion. If it's not Swift Swim, we don't have to worry about the weather being correct for that speed interaction. And now the multi-skill has also been broken on the Dragonite. So even though Tommy's in Pokemon disadvantage here, I think the game state might be pretty fine for him, right? You got Last Respects, will knock out anything for the rest of this game. Like anything takes a Last Respects, it gets knocked out. If you get the Sun up, you're going to be able to knock out the Archaludon or even the Politoed with the Heat Wave. You just have to be careful because William's Politoed is still lurking in the back.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? When you're down to just 2 Pokemon left, you could stall this out if you're Tommy, which means that maybe you protect the Charizard for now, hope that the Politoed switches in, and then you Mega Evolve on the next turn to overwrite that weather. But it's not going to be the case. Tommy's just going to go ahead and use Mega Evolution now and go ahead and get that Charizard to get rid of this weather. I guess you stand to lose a lot more than what you could potentially gain by going for that Protect and waiting it out. We're going to see the Archaludon Protect in response as Dragonite just goes for a Dragon Pulse. Still one of the fastest Pokemon on the field. It's going to make that into a 2-hit knockout. Archaludon saves itself from a Weather Ball, but this Basculegion still gets a chance to fire off an attack. That Last Respects into the Dragonite will pick it off, and we are now down to 2 Pokemon apiece.
I think this is still a pretty fine turn for Tommy. You do give up your Sun, so when William switches the Politoed back in, the Rain will be up for the rest of the game. But your Basculegion is faster than Archaludon. Again, you have the 2 boosts to the Last Respects from 2 Pokemon being knocked out. Should still be able to knock out Archaludon from here despite the 1 stamina boost. And even though Charizard can't use its Fire-type attacks very well anymore, a Water-type Weather Ball is probably still enough to knock out the Politoed. You get the double base power boost because the weather is up. You get the boost from the Rain. And even this Water-type attack from a Charizard is not something we get to see too often. I think is going to be enough to lock up this game for Tommy here.
Yeah, it's just tough because there's no way to really get through the Basculegion. I guess your hope was that you get the double Protect here, and then the Politoed isn't at the receiving end of this Weather Ball, so you can fire off a Weather Ball back, but that's not going to be the case. As Charizard lands the final blow onto this Politoed, definitely not something that you see every day.
No.
And without the double Protect, the Archaludon will fall to a Last Respects. And Tommy Cooleen goes up 1 game in the series.
Really well managed by Tommy there, knowing that he didn't really need to have the weather advantage in the end game there. The Politoed switching in on that Last Respects was enough to put it in range for Weather Ball. Whatever type the Weather Ball was didn't matter in the end. And knowing that the Basculegion was faster than Archaludon gave him so much more safety. He could leave the Basculegion vulnerable to that Mega Dragonite's Dragon Pulse, for example, knowing that even if it gets a critical hit, I have the Focus Sash, I'm going to be able to survive, and I will continue to threaten this Archaludon before it can run away with the game.
And getting this knockout into Sneasler was just such a big deal. You know, we talked about the fact that that seems like a really great trade for Tommy in particular. And it's like, you know, what really was going to be there to threaten something like the Garchomp? You care mostly about the Politoed, but it took so much damage. It was never going to come back in and be faster than that Garchomp to dish out an Ice Beam. That would have been kind of like the big super effective hit. So I feel like super great trade for Tommy to give up the Garchomp in favor of that Sneasler there for Billy. And we get to see what happens in this game too. Are we going to see the same reliance on the Mega Dragonite for Billy?
I think Mega Dragonite is pretty good here. Mega Dragonite is very strong into Mega Charizard Y, which gives it a big edge, right? Even if you, for example, lose a Weather War, you have the Dragonite that can still come in and deal with the Charizard. But I don't know if we're going to see the Dragonite. We get to see the Scoville and Espathra combo right off the bat.
I like this. So Espathra, kind of another one of those Pokemon that introduced in Scarlet and Violet, I feel like got a small amount of time in the sun, but I feel like we mostly saw it for being able to take advantage of gravity and hypnosis, being able to put Pokemon to sleep. But of course, Espathra has a couple of other tricks up its sleeve. Speed Boost going to keep making it faster and faster the more times that it sits on the field.
And Scoville a really cool partner for it. Of course, the Espathra really doesn't want to see King Gambit, but if King Gambit attacks while Mega Scoville uses Rage Powder, its ability will burn the King Gambit as soon as King Gambit deals damage to it. So not only do you redirect the Kowtow Cleave, you then lower the King Gambit's damage for the rest of the game.
But that's why you have the Charizard here, because one way that you could get around the Rage Powder is just by going for a Mega, oh my god, I almost said Terra. A Mega Evolution and a Heat Wave. Double Protect though here from Billy just to kind of scout out what Tommy might want to do with both of these Pokemon. We don't even see the Mega Evolution actually committed to this turn, as this is probably about as bad as it can get. With the King Gambit taking advantage of that Double Protect, getting the Swords Dance off, and now what?
Very heads-up play from Tommy, and not a great Moody Boost either. By not Mega Evolving the Charizard, you accomplish two things. You preserve your ability to turn the sun on if William swaps Politoed in, and you're not boosting the overheat damage from that Scoville. For a Double Protect on this first turn is a very common thing with those two Pokemon, with the Scoville and Espathra. So a huge Swords Dance there. Now even if King Gambit gets burned, its damage output will still be what you expect.
Well, I was going to say, you gotta worry about a little bit about those Moody Boosts that the Scoville just got though, because while it is going to be on the slower side since it did take a hit to its speed stat, it got a +2 to its special attack. So now that the sun is active, you might just be throwing an overheat at that King Gambit's way, as the baton pass from this Espathra is actually going to give that speed boost that it got from its ability over to something else that's about to take the stage. It's going to be the Politoed, one of the Pokemon you talked about.
And Politoed gets a speed boost, which is cool. You do have the special attack boost from the Moody, but you've also just set up the Rain, so there maybe is a chance that the King Gambit can survive an overheat here still?
I mean, it's just, even if it's not, I mean...
it's just slower.
Yeah, it is just slower. So the Kowtow is going to pick it off. You do get the Spicy Spray activated, as you said, as the Kowtow Cleave makes contact with the Scoville. It's going to activate that ability and give a burn over to the King Gambit. But yeah, I was wondering, in the rain, does it still actually fall to a +2 overheat?
Maybe. It might have been close, but unfortunately we won't get to know, as the Scoville has been knocked out. Now the Archaludon comes in. We'll have the chance to go for an Electro Shot on this turn. So despite losing the Mega Scoville, William's not in the worst of spots. You did get the burn off into the King Gambit. You've set up Archaludon to get a guaranteed +1 special attack boost. And your Politoed does have a speed boost. That could come in pretty handy if Tommy has to swap the Charizard out and back in. Politoed, depending on how it's trained, might still be faster, which could give him the opportunity to go for... We saw Charizard use a Water Weather Ball. Will we see a Politoed use a Fire Weather Ball?
Hey, you know what? Anything is possible. I feel like at this stage in the game, as we do see that Charizard go away for now, it's going to be the Garchomp that actually has to take this muddy water.
That's so much damage.
Yeah, I mean, in the rain, like, how could it not be? Archaludon goes for the Electro Shot. Now, if this is into the King Gambit, feels like that's just going to secure the knockout here based on how much damage we saw on the previous game. It's not the Garchomp, which would have, been immune to it since it's a ground type, but King Gambit is not so lucky. A big knockout here as we look at what will come in for that King Gambit's place.
It's tough, right? You want to bring the Charizard back in to get the sun up, but the Charizard could be vulnerable to a faster Politoed. Now that sun is back up, though, the Muddy Water will be a reduced power, and of course, Politoed no longer has that Water-type Weather Ball. So maybe you want to... I mean, you could, attack with your Politoed first, get the fast Ice Beam into Garchomp to knock it out, but then you're leaving your Charizard... Leaving the Charizard open, right? You can't even Electro Shot anymore because the rain is not up.
Solar Beam.
Right.
Solar Beam the Polytoad.
You could, or
send it into the Shadow Realm.
or just get a big Weather Ball off into our Chaladon. You know, without that +2 Sucker Punch threat that we saw in that first game, this is going to be your best option into our Chaladon here.
Yeah, I think Weather Ball is close. You know, depending on the training of your Chaladon, it could very well just be a one-hit knockout with that weather. But you do have Protect as an option on this Chaladon, so maybe you have to bring the Espathra back in. Hope that you make it through this turn, and then you can baton pass the speed out. But for now, it is just going to be a Protect here from the Polytoad as, ooh, stopping Tantrum from the Garchomp into that position. And Heat Wave coming up for the Charizard. Maybe their Chaladon actually does get through this. Oh, it's just going to be a miss of the Heat Wave entirely. So their Dragon Pulse comes out, knocks out the Garchomp, and it's just 2 Pokemon left here for Tommy in Game 2.
Rough break for Tommy. Now he has the weather disadvantage for the rest of the game. William does still have that Espathra in the back, and if he wants to swap it out, bring it back in, the Polytoad, then the Electro Shot is rejuvenated. It is able to be used again. You do have to give up the speed boost on your Polytoad, but I think that's a trade you're willing to make here. This fast Polytoad is not really accomplishing much for you right now. And even though Tommy didn't get the Stomping Tantrum off into it, I don't know that that damage is going to be particularly meaningful for the rest of this game. Charizard's still very threatening, right? We saw the Water-type Weather Ball. It still could come in pretty handy. And of course, the Basculegion is immediately threatening those huge last respects. The Polytoad probably gets knocked out by it. The Archaladon probably takes a lot of damage. Espathra certainly gets blown away by it. So you have to be very careful about this Basculegion, especially with its Focus Sash still intact.
I still think the play is probably like if you can protect the Archaladon here. Oh, you don't. Okay, never mind. You just don't protect the Archaladon. You're gonna go ahead and let it take this Weather Ball. It does hang on, but the problem is this Basculegion is still going to be faster than you. The Last Respects was aiming towards the Polytoad though, so Espathra is gonna tank the hit instead. Now you gotta hope that you're getting enough mileage out of this Archaladon before the rain comes back in. Dragon Pulse comes out at +1, and it just doesn't get the knockout onto this Basculegion.
And now I believe the Basculegion is going to be faster than Polytoad as well. I think we saw that interaction in the first game.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but if it's faster than the Archaladon, it's certainly faster than the Polytoad.
Right. Both. Tommy definitely has the speed advantage right now.
And the Weather Ball did so much to that Archaladon. I think another Water-type Weather Ball could take a resisted knockout into this Archaladon. And as long as the Basculegion is able to connect that Last Respects into Polytoad, it might be another Charizard wins in the rain moment.
I think it might. I mean, that's just the power of this Pokemon. Archaladon is going to go for the Protect, though. You're still going to try to get out of this if you can, as Charizard was opting to threaten a Weather Ball into that position, but Polytoad just can't hang on through that Last Respects. It's got basically as many boosts as it can with only one ally left in this game. And that's going to be Archaladon's last life, as we see the forfeit thrown in, and Tommy Cooleen wins Swiss round 4.3, 2-0.
4.3.1415. So really well played.